Hey there, folks. Welcome to our Vegas Nation Stadium show, where we provide inside analysis and all up-to-date information on what is happening with the NFL stadium set to open here in 2020. I'm Ed Graney, sports columnist of the Las Vegas Review-Journal. I'm once again pleased to be joined by our man on all things stadium, Rick Velotta of the RJ. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Well, let's get to it. You wrote it best. You said it earlier this week. There's a high wire act happening in Allegiant Stadium. It has nothing to do with entertainment, but the roof is going up. A lot of stuff has happened since we last talked. Let's get to that right away, to the roof and what this means and where they are in the project as they try to raise this. Well,
gosh, what a complicated effort to do
yes,
this. It's
unbelievable. By the way, I now need an engineering degree to read half your articles. But anyway.
Exactly. It's one of those things where they're trying to pull all these cables that are going to be supporting the ETFE roof up to the top level, 150 feet up. And in order to do that, they have to kind of inch it up little by little, every single one of those cables, and then make the attachment at the top. It's going to take 6 weeks to do that.
That takes 6 weeks?
Yes, it's pretty elaborate. They want to do it very carefully. It's kind of dangerous for some of the guys that are going to be on the work. So obviously they want to do things safely. They've had a great safety record so far, and they want to keep it that way. So it's just a very slow process.
You know, you were out there last week, another tour of the stadium. We're going to get to Don Webb in a second. What to you was the most intricate part of this in terms of laying the stadium down? I don't think if people are out there, that you can kind of give them a view of what this looks like when these panels and cables are laid into place on the ground before they're lifted up.
It's like a big crosshatch pattern. It's like a bunch of little squares. Basically, you've got cables stretched both horizontally and vertically. And I think the thing that makes it most interesting or most amazing to me is how much these things look or how much they weigh. Because if you have a small piece of it, and Don Webb put one of them on his desk, it was just like 8 inches long, something. It was pretty small, 90 pounds, wow. 90 pounds. So when you look at it from inside the stadium, when the stadium's completed, when the roof's completed, it's going to look like just a couple of threads up
right.
there. But in reality, these things are thick stainless steel cables that weigh tons, and they'll be lifted up, as I said, simultaneously, little by little, and finally it reaches the very top.
Don Webb spoke to the Review-Journal about these cables and what it's going to take to raise this roof. Let's listen to Don.
The main activity on the bowl of the stadium right now on the floor is the arrangement of the stainless steel cables that will support the ETFE roof. There are a series of 100 cables that go up in pairs. Some are as long as 800 feet. Most of these cables are between 2.5 and 3 inches in diameter. As I've described to you before, they're stressed to enormous loads, and they come pre-assembled with the dimensions of those cables already fixed, and the ends that attach to the nodes at the perimeter roof of the stadium are already precisely calculated and dialed in.
Good stuff there from Don, talking about raising the roof at the future home of the Raiders and UNLV football. You mentioned the word. In your mind, how dangerous is this? Because safety's been such a concern out there, but this is not putting up some desks here. This is a major part. So where does the safety concerns lie?
Well, when you think about it, these guys who are going to have to attach the cables to the lining of the rooftop there, they're going to be 100 feet up in the air. One of the things that Don Webb mentioned to me is that he's not a real big fan of heights, and he walked around the stadium on the catwalk that's been installed, and that's a steel grate that you can see through, and he said even that was kind of hard from that level. So you imagine these guys that are attaching these cables that weigh tons to the stadium roof line there. They have several gantries placed all the way around the rim of the top of the stadium. These guys are all going to have to be doing that, and that's precision work as well. Plus, these cables don't stretch. So right. I think one of the amazing things about this is that they have to have the optimum temperature in order to do this, because naturally steel will contract and expand based on the temperature. So they have to have an optimum temperature in which to perform this. And that's why they've kind of waited until September to do this, because it's not quite as hot as it was a couple of months ago.
You know, I lived in California for 40 years, so I went through my small shakes of earthquakes and massive earthquakes where I was standing in doorways, you know, praying what was really probably 20 seconds. It seemed like 20 minutes. Earthquakes, you know, can be very, very frightening, obviously, cause mass destruction. Webb actually spoke about construction pieces that are now being put into the stadium in case something like an earthquake would occur. We'll go back to Don Webb for that. Here's his thoughts.
In actual reality, this building is intended to move. It's intended to move because of its thermal expansion and contraction. It's intended to be able to move during an earthquake. And so one of the features that allows this building to be rigid yet flexible is a series of bearings that are at the bottom and the top of each one of the main vertical support members, these columns. And this allows the building to hinge, those columns to hinge, so that the roof can move at a different rate and in a different direction than the floor itself without huge damage occurring.
Good stuff from Don. Rick, you've done as much research of anyone in this stadium. How do you think they're going to be, whether it be an earthquake or other potential catastrophe? How many safeguards have been put into this thing that you're going to feel that they'll be okay if something horrible would happen?
Well, the worst thing that could happen is if there was an earthquake that really shook the whole building apart. And if you had a solid link between the stadium and the concourse level, that's exactly what would happen if there was a big earthquake. Now, I'm not a SoCal like you, and so I haven't lived through too many of these things. I once was driving from Los Angeles and changed lanes without turning my wheel when there was an earthquake that happened when I was driving. But that's about the extent of it. So I haven't seen the power of this. Lived through a couple of the ones that are here.
Right.
But what
they're usually aftershocks here from California.
Exactly. And the thing that what Don described in his section just a second ago was this pivot point on the both at the concourse level as well as on top at the roof level that allows there to be some flexibility. Right. And that's what protects the building. You look at these things as rigid, sturdy, you know, it's a big bunch of concrete and steel.
Right.
But the fact is it has to kind of breathe a little bit. It has to have that flexibility. So to have that flexibility is what's going to protect it if there ever is an earthquake. And certainly Las Vegas is known to have some seismic areas. There's some fault lines that are close by, in fact. So, you know, it's something that every major building in Las Vegas, they protect themselves with by having some kind of precautions. And that's what this is in the case of the stadium.
Now, you've also talked about it could take up, the roof will be up by next year,
right?
Springtime. But a lot of stuff is happening inside that stadium now day to day. So as the major part of the roof is going up, I'm reading from you as perhaps as small as concession stands are going up, also with the escalators. So talk about everything that's going on while this major part of raising a roof is happening.
Yeah, there's been a lot of concern about the project being behind, but the reality is that there's a lot of things that were scheduled to happen later on in the process that are already done or are being done right now. And you mentioned a couple of them right there. The concession stand, a very nice black tile. Black, I guess.
Wait, they've already brought in tile for the concession stand?
It's already in. It's already in.
And
it's beautiful, actually. So as far as concession stands
go. As far as they go.
Yeah, so, you know, think about it. Say stainless steel on black tile.
Yeah.
Very Raiders, you know.
I think from what I've read in your work, 60% of the work has been done. Do those two numbers allow Don Webb to smile, or is it not in his DNA to do that?
It's not in his DNA to do that. He's going to be worried about it forever.
This.
Yeah, he's going to be, I think he'll have a celebration the day that they actually get the keys to the building and it's turned over to them. But he's always on top of things. He's a hard worker himself. He likes to keep people on pace. And he's very, he's concerned about it, but at the same time, he's also very confident that they're going to get the work done on time.
Rick, great job as usual. Can't
Thanks.
wait for the next one to keep people updated in the stadium. Well, there you have it. We hope you enjoyed the show. And remember, for all your stadium and Raiders news, go to reviewjournal.com daily and check back here at Vegas Nation. Also, remember to like us on Facebook. We're going to continue to bring you the stadium shows as the project is built before our very eyes. For Review Journal's Rick Velotta, I'm Ed Graney. Thanks for watching Vegas Nation on Facebook. Give it a like.